Welcome to this explainer on the Eternal Theater. I'll be playing the role of your cosmic observer today, the Shadow Reaper, if you will, ushering you into a performance of human vanity that, spoiler alert, is already perfectly finished. We're going to unpack a deeply cynical, fascinating philosophical framework that looks at human existence not as a grand journey, but as a cold, recurring stage play. Right, let's dive straight into this cosmic drama. You're about to witness the cycle of active negation. Imagine a script where all of human achievement, instead of building towards some grand, permanent legacy, inevitably just sets into a terminal silence. That is the core of what we're looking at today. In this philosophy, the universe isn't some warm, welcoming home. It's a cold, eternal theater, and we're literally just actors reading lines we didn't even write. To understand this, we're going to trace a specific, tragic trajectory across a 5-act cycle, starting with hubris at the great noon, moving into the great fast, descending into the void, catching a glimpse in the lunar mirror, and finally hitting apotheosis. We'll watch how the red specter, who represents the ego, transforms into the inescapable crimson night. So let's raise the curtain on Act 1, the ego's hubris at the great noon. Our play kicks off with the red specter standing quietly in the wings of a stage, known as the pulpit of the perished stars. He is the ultimate cosmic observer, just watching the seeker of the valley, which basically represents humanity, or even you and me, arrive on stage. Now, the seeker is weighed down by their roast beast. This is a heavy feast of constructed meanings. Think about your career, the legacies you're desperate to leave behind, the stories you tell yourself to give your life purpose. The brutal reality here is that the ego views all those carefully constructed meanings as nothing more than a brightly colored scarf wrapped around a totally lifeless void. To the cosmos, your grand feast is just a cheap theatrical prop. Moving right along to Act 2, the ego's indifference and the great fast. Here, the specter as ego steps forward. But he isn't acting like a classic tempter, offering you worldly pleasures or infinite knowledge for your soul. Operating as the indifferent Mephistopheles, he initiates a terminal wager called the Great Fast. This is an intentional, ruthless stripping away of the seeker's meanings. He forces humanity to realize that their anchor has no bottom. All those grand monuments and legacies, he makes them taste of absolute nothingness. The ego's role isn't to save you. It's just to execute the cold reality of the void. Which drags us down into Act 3. The ego's descent into the void. Once that feast of meaning vanishes, the specter brings in his cosmic stagehands, the architects of the void, to clear away your old idols. Because remember, this performance of vanity is already finished. You've got the grim Ganesh, the sovereign of active destruction, who systematically uncreates your sanctuaries using the honest sound. It's this heavy, resonant thud that just shatters foundational delusions. And then there's my role, the Shadow Reaper, acting as the logic of zero. I wait at the edge to harvest the husks and ensure the pool of gore is ready. We're just ushers, doing our terrifying jobs, so human achievement rightfully ends in terminal silence. Now things get kind of weird in Act 4, the dissolution of the ego in the lunar mirror. High above this incredibly grim scene, a twisted silver imp descends from the lunar heights. This imp acts as a mirror for the cosmic entities themselves, and the contrast here is absolutely crucial. On one hand, you have the red specter enforcing the great fast with icy, serious silence. On the other, the imp is mocking this entire cosmic script with chaotic laughter that literally sounds like breaking glass in an empty void. This laughter completely shatters the self-important vibe the architects of the void have going on, and the individual identity of the specter actually begins to crack under the weight of this cosmic absurdity. The imp cruelly points out to the specter and the grim Nash that they are really just the spirit of gravity. The massive revelation here is that the ego's grand existential purpose, all this hollowing out and active negation, is just a series of scripted gestures in a theater that was never ever meant to have an audience. The universe isn't watching us, it's an empty house. And that brings us to the grand finale, Act 5, Apotheosis and the Rise of the Crimson Night. Under the crushing weight of everything being a joke, the imp shatters the very foundation of the play by asking one simple question. Who wrote this script for the great evening? Who actually decided any of this? Faced with this dizzying lack of foundation, the specter sheds his former role as the ego. He undergoes an apotheosis, a dark ascension. He aligns perfectly with the absolute law of the crimson star and rises as the crimson night. He transcends the indescribable struggles of the Seeker to become the superego of eternal negation. As the Crimson Knight, he is a cold, permanent guardian of an inescapable script. He doesn't bother bargaining anymore because he literally is the eternal return. As the performance concludes, the imp leaves behind glowing silver lunar runes carved right into the floor. Now, I want to be really clear about this. These runes are not symbols of enlightenment. They are terrifying markers that simply reset the stage. They guarantee that this nightmare refuses to stay dead, and the hollowing cycle is just going to begin all over again when the next Seeker walks out. Finally, let's wrap this up with our conclusion: spiritual redemption versus the recurring nightmare. To truly grasp how dark this eternal theater is, we have to contrast it with the profound final statement of Goethe's Faust, the Chorus Mysticus. Goethe frames our transitory earthly struggles as mere parables. In his view, our physical failures and sins are just allegorical steps toward divine grace, serving as a bridge between the tragic human condition and eternal peace in the afterlife. It reassures us that human effort is perfected in a higher cosmic order. But the Crimson Star completely rejects this. It guarantees that human effort is just a recurring nightmare, entirely stripped of spiritual redemption, trapped forever by the cold laws of the eternal return. So, as we dim the lights on the pulpit of the perished stars, I'll leave you with this final, chilling question to evaluate your own brightly colored scarf of vanity. Is your roast beast, all your striving, your career, your desperate search for meaning, actually a parable leading to enlightenment and divine grace? Or is it just a prop in an endlessly repeating script, played out in an empty house where the moon is watching and the moon never learned how to sigh? Thanks for exploring this dark theater with me today.